Alisa Kriegel. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you, Rich.
Nice to meet you. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this. I really love what you do. I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let me give the audience a brief introduction here for you before we dive into the conversation.
Great.
You are a psychologist with over 30 years in the field. You spent the first half of your career in community mental health settings and hospitals, serving clients with complex psychological needs, while also teaching and supervising graduate students in mindfulness, DBT, and trauma. And then you started your own private practice in 2009, and you now work with young adults and couples in New York City, in person and virtually, including those in monogamous relationships, as well as people exploring consensual non-monogamy. You're also an author. Your debut book From Sexless Marriage to Sex Goddess, a memoir, released in November of 2025. And when you wrote your first words into your phone and kept writing wherever and whenever you could, based on a friend's encouragement during a season of upheaval. You're also a lifelong creative. You've danced, painted, acted, written poetry since childhood, and you
Mhm.
once ran a jewelry business selling to shops in New York City and San Francisco, all rooted in your belief in the healing power of writing and creative passion.
Yes.
The jewelry element
Yeah.
was something that was quite a surprise to me, especially for my own endeavors into jewelry.
Oh, have you done some jewelry?
Yes, I had a designer line for 9 years.
Oh, we'll have to compare notes on our
Yes,
on our jewels, or maybe do a barter or exchange or something.
most definitely. Most
That's
definitely.
awesome.
So I don't have a whole lot of structure to this other
Great.
than my very first question, which
Okay.
is, where were you born and what was life like as a kid for Elisa?
I was born actually in Los Angeles, California. I lived
Mm,
there for about 6 months before my parents moved back to the East Coast, which
okay,
is where they're from. I have parents who were from Brooklyn and the Bronx.
gotcha.
So LA was like a big deal for them. And they wanted to be near family. I was the first. So
Okay,
my Hollywood dreams were cut short at 6 months. And I was moved back to a little apartment in New Jersey. So
right,
yeah.
right.
Um, life growing up, so I was pretty much grew up in a suburb. Um, what I always find interesting, dad was a lawyer, so that's sort of my logical side.
Okay,
Mom was an artist and an art teacher.
nice.
So we had a lot of art around the house constantly. We were always painting, drawing. My favorite thing she did is sometimes just for us, but I remember for if we had friends over, she would put like a big thing of butcher block paper, like huge, over a whole wall and
Yeah.
just let us go to town.
Oh, very
Crayons and paint. And so that was awesome. So I feel like creativity was very much, as her being an artist, my parents both being from New York, and the arts were very important to them.
yeah.
So I remember going to like being taken to the ballet or, like the kids version and
Okay.
whatever, when we were young. So that part was really wonderful. And I think was just really instrumental, in who I was. And I was doing a lot of, even as a kid, creative writing. And so that was a big part. Art creativity was always part of our life. So that was kind of the light side of
Okay.
living with an artist. I write in my book about my mom, who's an amazing woman, but like many artists, had her demons and her
Mm,
moods and her
okay.
emotions.
Yeah.
Um, and so things could also be erratic and kind of moody, and we never knew what was coming. Thank God, not in a terribly abusive way, just more in a very chaotic, emotional. Um, I don't remember how old my brother was. I have a younger brother, younger sister, but at
Okay.
some point, it's sort of a favorite family story. My brother must have done something, or my mom was in a bad mood and she got pissed off. And we had been painting, the paints were out at the time, and she ended up painting him with the paint. Like, she was so angry. She
Oh,
didn't
wow.
know what to do. So he was like covered head to toe in paint. And we were just like, what is going on? But he thought it was hysterical. He thought it was like the funniest thing ever. So
Um,
that's like a favorite family memory is, remember when you painted David to do
right.
it? And it was like, I think it was a lot of that. There was a lot of the kind of emotion and chaos, but there was a lot of lightness within that, or at least I think we learned how to find
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
lightness in it.
That's very fascinating, being able to, as a kid, to find that lightness.
Yeah.
Um, and the fact that he found that hysterical
Yeah.
versus it being traumatic. Uh, that's a wonderful experience from an uncomfortable position.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. For me, I think as I got older, it kind of just made me shut down, right? I found my
Yeah.
way by shutting down. And I
Mhm.
think it also is partly what led to my interest in being a therapist or helping people. There was a lot of paths that led to that. But I think
Sure.
seeing a mom who had uh, really what I would say is an undiagnosed mood disorder
Yeah.
and no medication,
Yeah.
um, was like, oh, there has to be another way to help this or fix people or help people who are struggling. And instead of just shutting up and like shutting
Definitely.
down.
Yeah.
So
How about grandparents? Did you have a grandparents in your life as a kid?
I did. I had never met my dad's mom, but he was remarried. My grandfather was remarried, so that's the only grandmother I knew. And actually, when my folks moved back from Los Angeles, the first place they went was to my dad's apartment.
Okay.
They were in Brooklyn at the time, and I guess they didn't really have room for a baby. So, as rumor has it, they set up a little crib for me in a dresser drawer. And that's where I slept for like
Classic.
a month or something. That was my
Yeah.
bed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were with them. Um, I had a grandma on my mom's side, grandmother and grandfather, and my grandmother on my mom's side was a character and a half from Brighton Beach, Brooklyn,
Okay.
tiny little lady with a big bouffant named Blanche. And
Oh. Oh.
Blanche was awesome. Blanche
Yeah.
was, yeah. Blanche also had some mood issues, but we loved
Okay.
her. And what I was amazing is um, she was pretty much, my folks were born in the 1930s.
Okay.
Blanche wasn't a working woman. She was raising kids. She was the youngest of, I think, 9 kids herself, and still helped take care of her mom
Oh, wow.
before I knew her. But when I met her, I would say it was pretty soon. I was probably in my like 8, 9 years old, I would say, when it started. My grandmother, so Blanche, started taking like classes at the senior center in art.
Okay.
And she started falling in love with ceramics.
Wow.
So I remember her coming over, and she loved to bake. And so she would come over um, and she would like do cutouts of our hands so she
Hmm.
could bring it back to her class. And so we all have little like hand sculptures of our hands.
Yeah.
And then she had some more abstract sculptures and some sculptures of like mothers and kids or grandmas. And it was really awesome to see. And she would enter, and I think she also started painting at that
Okay.
time. And she started entering like art shows and winning little awards. And it just kept her, it's sort of, I would say that the last 2 decades of her life, 3 decades of her life was just filled with her doing art.
Oh,
And
amazing.
it was, yeah, I was really into, I've always been a big believer in this idea of second chapters, and it's never too late. Because
Yeah.
here's this woman in Brooklyn, New York, who had never picked up a paintbrush or known how to fire something in the kiln. And she's just spending her days making art at like
Wow.
70, 80, 90 years old. So it's an inspiration.
Yeah, what amazing time for her to be able to tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah. It really was. And I feel like it was just so fulfilling for the end of, the last third, let's say, of her life to
Right.
be able to have something. It was around the time my grandfather had died, so she was
Okay.
alone. So I
All
don't
right.
know so I think that's when she probably started going to the senior center. I was pretty, young that I wouldn't know the details, but I'm sure that's when she started kind of focusing more on herself and friends and going to the center, and she just was drawn to art always. My mom, I don't know if my mom influenced her. I think she likes to say my mom got her art abilities from her,
Okay.
even though she wasn't doing it. And even though Blanche wasn't doing it until she was like in her 60s.
Right.
But my mom went to Pratt, which was an art school in
Okay.
Brooklyn. So my mom was doing, art was her life from a young
Yeah.
age. And it was incredible that she was able to pursue it. I think she would have wanted to do something more with her art. She loved scenic design and things like that. But
Yeah.
in the 50s, the expectation was for her to be a teacher. So she went to art school, did a lot of printmaking. She was very modern in her art. She wasn't like a flower and landscape kind of
Gotcha.
artist,
Yeah. Yeah.
big and abstract, and was doing a lot of um, prints and etchings on big metal plates and just
Oh,
loved it. So she really was able to take her art to a whole other direction. And when she went to LA and then had me before I was born, she was actually teaching in Watts. Watts, I don't know if
okay.
you know about
Yes.
Watts. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a really formative thing for her. And I grew up hearing stories about the poverty that
Yeah.
she came in contact with and the talent of these
Oh,
kids
yeah.
who had never really been allowed to express themselves with art. And so to have this art teacher who let them just be themselves, and it wasn't
Yes.
little arts and crafts projects, and she loved it. And I think it always stayed with me, not just the power of art for healing, especially in a population that has so little,
Right.
but also that idea of giving back and how much it gave to her and
Yeah.
how moved she was to be able to be there in that environment. So it was a pretty special time, in spite of sadly, she was there during huge riots,
Right.
and a beloved colleague of hers, she's probably one of the few white teachers that were there. Um, and a really beloved colleague of hers was killed in the riots, and
Oh, wow.
she was sort of asked to like stay away for a while. It wasn't safe for her. So
Right.
it was a really bittersweet experience.
Yeah, definitely. That tumultuous time in history was definitely something that was recognized across the country. Um,
Yeah.
and the disappointing part is the fact that she wasn't able to stay there to continue that work to potentially bring some healing from that
Yeah.
period, that creative expression.
Yeah, I think she really missed that. And I
Yeah.
don't think she found an environment like that as much when she moved back to New Jersey.
All right.
She then kind of was more, once she started having me and my siblings are about 3 years apart. So
Okay.
she was pretty much home with us. My dad was back at school for law school. And it wasn't until we got a little older that she just even found like an art studio where she could do her own work.
Right.
So it was really kind of an end of a period for her, you know, but um but so remarkable for her experiences that I feel like it's some of the earliest things I remember her telling us about. And the
Yeah.
stories, I think that's, and maybe it wasn't the only thing, but it was what stuck with me the most was the story she told from that period.
Right. Right. In elementary school, were you one of the kids that would sit towards the back of the class, or did you like being up front?
So I was a really shy kid, like super shy. Um, very um like I was a quick learner. So
Okay.
I knew like I was very early to read. So I kind of knew things, but I wouldn't raise my hand and answer the question.
All right.
So my shyness definitely got the best of me. So I was very shy. I was definitely maybe not the very back, but if I was in the front or the middle, I wasn't talking much.
Okay.
Um, at least I don't remember ever being like with with some friends as I got older, I was a big talker, but throughout most of my schooling, I
Yeah.
was a pretty quiet student. Um, I was always the story my mom tells me from kindergarten is I was always someone who had a very somehow clear sense of myself and
Okay.
was not a follower. So I was quiet, but I kind of did my own thing. And apparently, I don't remember this at all, but my teacher told my mom on like one of the first weeks of school that we were in the playground and the teacher said something like, go to your left. And all the kids went to the right and I went to the left. And she was like, Alisa does her own thing. And my mom was like, yep, she does. Um, so that's the story my mom loves to tell. I was,
Oh,
yeah, I definitely was shy. Um, I think it's somewhere around first grade or second grade when everyone's learning to read.
yeah.
They sent me to like a fourth grade class to read.
Oh, wow.
And I was so intimidated because when
Right.
you're a second grader,
Yeah.
those fourth graders are huge and they're really old and they're really big. And so I was just like,
Yeah.
this is scary. This is really scary. So I know it was like helping me in some way, but I think it just reinforced my shyness.
Right. I totally relate. I was the same way.
Did
Um,
you get pushed up?
I was also shy.
You were shy.
Yes. But in third grade, uh, they sent me to the fourth grade class for the afternoons.
Yeah.
And it was the same scenario. Like I knew who the kids were because a lot of them were from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Um, but still, it was like, oh my gosh, they're so much older. Like
Yeah.
I can't believe it.
It's so funny. Looking back now, right? You're like, wow. You look at little kids, they all seem, I mean, I have
Yeah,
one of my own, but they all seem similar. I don't see the big difference. But when you're
yeah,
this height feels really big. Yeah. So I don't know what that is. And I don't know if that's a common thing, like creativity and the shyness. You're very much in your head and creating
yes,
worlds and stories. And even back then, I remember um, I would just, my dad always had music playing in the house, and I would just be dancing, doing my little dances, like all to
yes,
no one was there, especially if no one was there. I would
yeah,
just be dancing around, loved it. Um, and I remember once I could write and draw,
uh-huh.
by just always writing little stories with pictures and I was just obsessed. I came across my folks were moving at some point, so they gave me a big box of all this stuff.
Hmm.
And there was like little stories I had written when I was like 6 and 7 years old. And
Nice.
amongst them was a letter written on like this tiny little note paper dear publisher, all spelled wrong. Please, please publish my book. Like it would make me very happy or something. And my parents just, I don't think they ever sent the book to the publisher, but they
Right.
kept the little letter, which I'm thrilled. So I came across it just a little while ago, a few months after my own book was published. And I was like, wow, this was a much longer dream than I even realized
Right.
to
Yes.
be an author. I knew I loved writing, but like I didn't realize I had been sending letters to publishers since I was 6 years old. So
Right. I was just thinking the exact same thing when you were saying that. I'm like, what a premonition from all the
yeah,
way back then.
I mean, I had once heard, and I think it's something that's probably more true than not. That if you're really unsure what you want to do in your life as an adult, you should think back to what gave you the most joy as a kid,
Yeah,
because you probably, before all the filters and all the shoulds, there was something in you that just knew what you were drawn to.
for sure. That's that's a huge highlight point, I think, for the audience right there. And if you're unsure, remember back to what really sparked you as a kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
That that's so powerful in and of itself, um, as well as the possibility,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Because you never know.
And also too at that because at that age, like the possibility is limitless. Like
Right.
we're doing things just because we feel that's what we need to be doing.
Yes.
And we don't think of any barriers or roadblocks that would be in our way
That's
to
exactly it.
accomplish.
All that. Right. And I think even though I was shy, I didn't have the level of insecurity. I mean, I obviously had some. I feel like shyness is like, I'm not allowed to talk kind of thing, but
Yeah.
um or just everything felt secret or felt big. But it's interesting because I think as you get older, it's all the insecurity of, well, I can't write. I don't have
Right.
anything to say, or it won't be published, or no one will like it, or
Yeah.
maybe it's not good enough. I mean, the good enough thing is just um, the worst. So I think that when you're young, all of those, you don't know about that world yet, that, oh, publishers might not like my book or might not. You
Yeah.
just think, oh, I wrote something. A publisher now has to publish it. So at some point, as I got older, I think that drifted away as even seeming like a career possibility. It just seemed either
Okay.
too hard or I wasn't good enough.
Right. Right. It isn't that interesting how that not good enough component enters in.
All the time,
Yeah.
all the time. I think that's one of the biggest obstacles to so much in my
Yeah.
life. I would guess, in the clients I see, just that
Yeah.
sense of ourselves in relationships with ourselves. I mean,
Yeah.
the not feeling good enough or whatever the enough is,
Yeah.
smart enough, talented enough, whatever it is.
Right.
It's, yeah, I see that through line through my life for sure.
Okay. With being selected to go up in grade levels because of your reading capability,
Yeah,
were there any specific teachers that you remember that were like,
do. Yeah, I
we
do.
recognize this?
Oh my God. Third grade was Miss Shrek. And Miss Shrek had an open classroom,
Oh, wow.
which was like a big deal. So this would have been like
Yeah.
in the 70s.
Right. Right.
And no one, I had never been in an open classroom. And so there was a lot of independence,
Mhm.
and you could kind of go at your level. So she was really very specific with everyone, what you were reading, what you were working on. It wasn't this, what most public school education is your lockstep, more or
Right.
less, with
Yeah.
the students around you. And and she was kind of young and very cool. Like in my mind, she was just so cool. Just like this young, cool teacher. I adored her. And I remember Holly was at the end of third grade. And I really can't believe to this day I read it, reading The Hobbit and
Okay. Yes.
and doing like a diorama. You know, do you remember the
Nice.
dioramas in a
Yes.
shoebox
Yes.
with the dragon and with like I made a big dragon. I didn't even remember out of what, but I just remember being so engaged and so excited,
Yeah.
loving that book. And I loved, my dad was a big Star Trek fan. So there was a lot of
Okay.
like fantasy and sci-fi around us.
Right.
And so The Hobbit was just so cool. And
Yes.
I was just transformed. I still to this day,
One of my
love,
favorites as
oh
well.
my God. Although I try to remember very specifically trying to read the first book of The Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
could not.
Right. Exactly.
I don't remember if I think I might have gone back to it later in life, but it was still like all the names and who's the elves and who's the orcs. And I was like,
Yep.
oh, I can't follow this. So I was
Yeah.
really happy when it came out in movie form
Yeah.
years later because I made it with The Hobbit, but The Rings I just never got to reading. So
Me either. The movies again, they had to be the thing to get me to comprehend what was going on. But The Hobbit, like I
oh,
completely understood that.
The Hobbit was simple and wonderful. And this journey, right? The hero's journey
Yep.
when you're like a kid.
Oh, for
Oh,
sure.
who doesn't love that? I mean, Star Wars was The
Yes.
Hobbit, but in
Exactly.
space, right?
Exactly.
The hero's journey. So, and that just really captured me.
Yeah.
And oh, yeah, I would say that it was probably one of the reading experiences that is most palpable to me that I really recall vividly and being
Interesting.
so excited about. You know, that book was incredible.
As you look back now, has there been any thought of doing fiction?
Yes, there has. I've
Oh,
already started my
all right.
second book. So
Nice.
you
There we
can,
go. All
and
right.
after writing the memoir, and we can get more into that later, but after writing a memoir, which, yeah, when I talk about it later, which was so highly personal
Sure.
and quite revealing about a
Yeah.
lot of things in my life, I wanted to do a second book. I was like, I would like to keep writing, but I don't want to keep writing memoir. So I love memoir, but I was like, so I already have the start of what I'm not sure will be sort of like a light sci-fi, magical realism, kind
Okay.
of psychological
Right.
fiction. Yes, it's a new
All the
genre.
interesting things.
Yes, all the really cool things,
Nice.
and that's still like probably one of the genres I love. I've been reading a lot of memoir because I have so many colleagues now who are memoirists, and
Okay.
so I want to read their books, or I'm at book festivals with them, and I want to
Yeah.
be able to sell their books for them if they're on Brit. And it's just a nice thing to do and leave reviews for friends. Um, but I needed a break, so I'm now reading Station 11,
Okay.
which is a sci-fi pandemic kind of thing, but it was written before COVID. So it's pretty incredible that
Eerie.
this woman wrote all this
Yeah.
like pre-COVID, and it was a way worse outcome than we had with COVID in Station 11.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just needed something that was very different than
Yeah.
memoir for a little while. And so I'm excited to be um, at least starting writing in
Very
this
cool.
different genre. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels really great. So,
If you remember back, as that young independent kid who was very shy, how was the friend group at that point in time? Was it very small and tight knit, or was it kind of a little bit of everything here and there?
yeah, I remember having a couple of really close friends. It's kind of how I've always operated.
Okay.
who lived in the neighborhood, like a best friend, Wendy, around the corner,
Nice.
and, a best friend, Jeannie, up the street. And that was um, what happened for me is in fifth grade. And I remember having some good friends from class and going to slumber parties and getting to
Okay.
know people. I remember early crushes on the boy across the street and all of that. And then when I was in fifth grade, my parents, well, we moved. We all moved to a different part of New Jersey,
Mm,
where they knew they had friends who lived there. And it was a town that was known for its school system. It had like one of the, New Jersey does have really strong education.
yeah.
So they had heard about, knew about the town from their friends. Um, we used to go to, I can't believe we were such nerds, Saturday school. My dad was very into education.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was like some like gifted, talented program that he found out about. And
All
so we're
right.
like, let's go to Saturday school. Yay. And it's like, oh my God, I was such a nerd. And but it was a lot of what they offered was things that weren't really strong in the schools at the time. Like arts were still not a very strong piece of public school.
Yeah.
So I remember getting to go and doing wonderful. It was like kind of dance movement class. It was this woman, and I'm blanking on her name, this older woman. And she was not just old to me, but an older woman who'd been teaching this course forever, where she would teach us about all these famous ballets and really the story behind the ballet. And I remember the Firebird, doing the Firebird, and then she'd have us act them out and dance around the room, and we'd all play different parts. It was
Oh, wow.
awesome. I remember doing Petrushka. I remember doing Firebird. Like I wouldn't have known about these things, but my like 7-year-old self, 8-year-old, and it was held at a junior high in the town we were moving to, Ridgewood, New Jersey. And so I knew Ridgewood from Saturday school. So it's like, oh, this will be fine. But I was in fifth grade, and fifth grade, you're what, like 10, 11, you're preteen.
Right.
That is a horrible time to be moving.
Yes.
Horrible. So I was pretty nervous and again, extremely shy, still the shyness. And I think that tipped my shyness over the top. I had, again,
Okay.
like, that's when I really, it was like one or two close friends who I met. Um, and the other really hard part, especially in middle school and high school, that we can get to, is Ridgewood was a very, for want of a better word, very conservative and waspy town.
Oh, got you. Mm,
And my family was like Brooklyn and Bronx Jews.
yeah.
And there was not many Jewish people in Ridgewood, New Jersey. I think there was like something like, I remember once reading, I think there was like 19 churches in this town
Holy cow.
and one temple. And that was pretty much the makeup of kids in the class. And it was very white and
Wow.
very conservative. And I only found out later on that in the 70s, 60s, 70s, it was a restricted town.
Uh,
So no blacks, no Jews,
right.
no Hispanics, right? You were
Yeah.
white or you couldn't be there. And
Yeah.
it kind of had that feel still.
Mm,
Um, so I think my parents felt like they were doing the right thing by us by moving us to this place where the school system was supposed to be just so good. But I don't think they really understood what would happen
right.
socially
Yes.
from feeling, at least for me. I don't know if my brother and sister felt it as much, but I was very much an individual and kind of always, did my own thing, loved, vintage clothes. And I dressed, loved to, and I had like these, my hair was even bigger and curlier, and no, unless you got a perm, nope, you didn't have curly hair back then. You had
Right.
straight Farrah Fawcett, Cheryl Teague's hair,
Yes.
so I felt very othered. in that town. Very
Yeah.
much an outsider as the new kid, and
Hmm.
also just these were not people I was used to being around.
For sure. That's an interesting component as well. Understanding that that move and that shift, the fact that your parents were thinking that it was going to be the good thing for you guys,
Yeah.
but the reality that they may have been removed from just because of being older
Yeah.
and not having to experience the trickle down effect of that thought process in the adult to the
Yeah.
children that creates that storyline across every city, state,
Hmm.
country, all of it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, as we know through psychology and different things like that, those are learned characteristics,
Yeah, they are.
not what they're originally.
No. And they, they had good friends there, especially like one couple. So they had friends. And
Right.
their friends were Jewish who they knew there. So I don't think they ever had a conversation with them about,
Yeah.
are there other Jewish people? They just assumed, well,
Yeah.
they're there and they go to the temple there. And we weren't even that active in temple, but they didn't even, I don't think they ever considered what that would mean, or that there was very few minorities in the town and what that would mean growing up in that
Right.
environment,
Right.
so conservative and like Protestant white
Yeah. Yeah. What,
area.
what also, too, on top of it, like you've got two younger siblings, your mom's having, you know, her swings
Yeah, yep,
based
she
off of
is.
her creative scenario.
Yeah,
And so you, as the older child, you've got this anxiety of not knowing what's going to be next in the home
exactly.
life, right?
Exactly.
And then you're going to a new school, the anxiety gets dumped on even more of, oh
Such a
my
good
gosh,
observation. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It, I understand that because I also lived that in a way, in terms of the anxiety of transitioning. Uh,
Mm,
I went to public school through third grade.
okay.
Third grade, I had the opportunity to go to fourth for the afternoons. The teacher there, she was in contact with this, I don't know if he was a teacher or what he was, but he ran a program called Project Plus. And
Mm,
it was for the students that were more creative, had more interest in creative things.
yeah.
Again, noticing I'm moving from third to fourth for the afternoon. Now they're like, all right, next year when you're in fourth, we want you to go to the high school in the afternoon so that you can experience some of the art stuff. You can go to the pool, swim in the pool, you can play basketball or
And
whatever.
was the high school what grade? Because you're in fourth grade. That's young to
Yeah,
be
the high
with high
school,
school.
ninth through 12th.
Those kids
Yeah,
were really big. I thought those third graders I was with were big, but wow.
no, exactly, exactly. And of course, we would be kind of not necessarily shoved into their rooms with them, but we'd have
Right.
our own space that we could do that with. Um, and the elementary school that I was in went through eighth grade. So it
Mm,
wasn't like I
like a
was going,
K-8. Yeah.
yeah, I would probably see some of those students that I recognized in the eighth grade levels,
Yeah.
um, seventh and eighth grade. But again, it's that scenario of, okay, this is another, for me, it was like, oh, this is a creative opportunity.
Yeah.
Great. Then my parents, who had just recently started going to church even more so,
Mm.
fundamental Baptist.
Oh, you have a whole other side. You got the
Yeah,
other side from me, Rich. Okay.
exactly. Exactly. The church they were going to decided they were going to open a school. So they asked my mom if she'd be willing to be a teacher or, help with the school and that kind of, she said yes. And so they pulled me out of public school
Mm.
put me in this private Christian school, which is K through 12, all in one classroom,
No.
essentially. Yes. So,
Was it a religious focus? I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm
no, no,
assuming art and creativity is not top of the list there.
no, I had, and also here's the other part of it. It was called Accelerated Christian Education, which is an Abeka book publishing arm, uh, which was founded out of Pensacola Christian College in Florida.
Okay.
Ultimately, I ended up going there, but
You've done the whole Baptist route, Southern
exactly.
Baptist route. Okay.
Well, fundamental Baptist, my grandfather on my mother's side, both sides of the family is all from Tennessee,
Okay.
East Tennessee. So
I've been to
vacations,
Tennessee, like
holidays,
Tennessee. Yeah.
trips to Tennessee.
Okay.
My mom's father was a Southern Baptist minister, but he wasn't the stereotype.
Oh,
During the week, he had a farm, did farm chores, all that kind of stuff. On the weekends, when he went to his church and pastored and that kind of stuff. And it was never, for me, it was never uncomfortable.
mm,
It always felt comfortable being around him, being with him.
yeah.
I was always on his heels whenever he would be going out the door to do something, work on the farm or whatever.
I love that.
But yeah, it was always like a warm, homey spot for
We
me.
had the nature piece. I feel like people
Yes.
who know farm and nature, that's
Yes.
a whole different connection. And
Yeah.
there's a creative in that, right? So many creatives are like really
Exactly.
connected to nature, or we strive to be, or really like feel that pull.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so going into that new school at fourth grade, I was so anxiety ridden. And like the first part of the day was you did the Pledge of Allegiance. They read a scripture thing out of the out of the Bible for the start of the day. Like this was going to be the regimen going
Okay.
forward. I'm standing there in front of my desk and I'm just lock kneed completely and nerves. Next thing I know, wham, I pass out.
Oh my God, first day.
First day in front of
Oh,
everybody.
that was more anxiety than your little body could handle.
Exactly.
That was huge. Fourth grade, and here you are having all these opportunities to get to go to do creative things, and you're in this
Yes.
completely different environment.
Yeah. So my creativity had to get very creative through the course of my years. I ended up creating the high school Letterman jackets, designed the monogram for that, helped pick out which jackets, how they should look. Me and another friend of mine who was 2 years older, we would always paint the field for the soccer games or baseball or whatever.
Right. Anything you could get your hands on.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
love that. But
Like,
anything more just creative was not really encouraged.
no. And I was mentioning it was accelerated Christian education. So the
Yeah.
way it was structured was you had these little booklets and you had to complete 12 of those booklets to finish your grade level. So you could work as fast as you wanted to get those done. And so for me, I didn't really try to push that component until later on when I realized, okay, I can be completely done with all this before I graduate. But that early on scenario, I only had one course of those 12 books that was art related. And it was very, very basic,
Oh,
rudimentary stuff. So it didn't even get to expand after that. So
about artists or about how to do like different kinds of
anything
art?
about
Any,
how to do any of the different kinds, any of the other stuff that would be entailed in an art curriculum.
right. It was so small,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
constricted. Oh,
But,
did
you know,
you
being
stayed
born,
there through your whole education?
yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like I said, went off to college to Pensacola Christian because my thought was, all right, they have the publishing company. Let me go there, study graphic design. Maybe I can
Mm,
get a job in working in the publishing company. So did that. At the time, I was working at a submarine shop making subs.
okay.
Sunset.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Um, and by the time I was 18, going off to college, I was already a shift leader running shifts. So when I went to the college and had to fill out the forms for work assistance programs, they saw that I had this restaurant
Right. Yeah.
experience, right? Me, I'm in Florida. I want to work outdoors. I want to do landscaping,
Yeah.
be on the landscape crew, be out in the sun. No, they stuck me in the kitchen.
No, they didn't.
Yes. And that
Oh,
was,
that's
and
miserable.
you didn't get a choice. Like what they gave you is what they gave you. And so again, horrible scenario. Fortunately, now as I look back, I didn't have the money to continue on and finish. So I ended up having to drop out.
Oh,
Never got my degree, never went into the publishing company. Didn't even get to go into uh, the advertising department of the company I was working for because that was my
that was
secondary
your
thought.
second dream. Like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
working for them. I'll do advertise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a creative muscle there.
Yeah. None of those things happened.
Well,
So,
and didn't have the parents or teachers, like we're so influential on our kids. My
right.
parents were, who said, what do you want to do? Right. And,
Yeah.
or, you know, my mom was real lucky. She's in Brooklyn in the late 1950s,
Right.
um, early 60s. And she had a teacher in high school who her folks didn't have money and said, you could get a scholarship at art
Oh,
school, and actually worked with her after school to put a portfolio together. Had
nice.
she not had that, I don't know what would have happened, but like you didn't have that teacher
Right.
because you were at the Christian accelerated Christian education school. They're
Yeah.
not looking at, oh, hey, let's get you to art school. And
Right.
that's really too bad because that's like could have, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Someone who
But
sees the talent and helps you get in the right direction.
for sure. But it was just that thing in me that I could not put out. Like
Yeah.
it had to express in any way possible that I could find. And again, that's why I've such a broad career
Yeah.
across multiple industries is because I was like, I want to do it. I'm gonna do it, and just dove in.
I
I
love
knew I
that.
could draw what I wanted to see, so I was like, all right, I'll just start.
Is what I'm looking at all your designs?
No,
Okay.
not all. The little dragon and
Yep.
the little bulldog there, those are
Yep.
my designs. Those are my creations.
So
Every
cool.
Yeah, everything else are animal totems,
Okay.
and
Yes.
then some artists that I follow and admire.
Beautiful.
So,
I
yeah,
love, and the bulldog is,
Bulldog. That's a brand that I'm building.
did you
Clothing
do the
brand.
logo?
Yep,
Nice.
all the created.
All the creative. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, okay, I'm seeing
Yep,
the bulldog everywhere. That's
yeah,
yours. Because
yeah,
you said graphic design is something, and then you had the jewelry.
yeah. The jewelry. Did clothing design for quite a while.
Wow.
Did some work with Bacardi, doing promo outfits for their promotions.
How
Uh,
cool. So
Absolute
I'm
vibe.
curious how you, and I know we're kind of, but I feel
No,
like
that's all
we've
right.
had similar, right? When you're at a school like that where everything is so cut off for you, and then
Yep.
you're in Pensacola in the kitchen,
Yeah.
um, how did you keep your spark alive? Were you doing little stuff on the side?
Um, Not until I got out of college. Um, while I was there, my art classes, that's the one thing I was doing well in. Everything else I was not passing, not
Yeah.
getting good grades. Again, another reason why I stopped, because I was going to have to pay to take them over.
Oh,
I was like, No, that's
no.
not happening." Um, but the art classes like really allowed me to expand so I could see what my talent was and feel it. Um, so when I went back to work in the restaurant, that wasn't working out. So I was like, all right, well, I've got to figure out another opportunity job wise, because if this
Yeah.
isn't going to be sustainable. And I just started my own clothing company right off the bat. Found
Wow.
a manufacturer in Detroit that could produce,
Wow.
started working with them, walked in, said, "This is my stuff. This is what I'd like to produce. Here's my business card, my branding." There's like, "Did you do all of that?" I'm like, "Yes." They're like, "Would you be willing to do that for us?" They're like, "We need a new logo," which is, another story that has played out. Like each time I'm working with somebody that seems to be bigger, they see what I'm doing and ask me to help change what they're
That's
doing. So
that's so great. That's
yeah,
so great. Well, you found your creative niche. You know what you love and good at. Many of them, it sounds like.
yes,
Yeah.
it fortunately it's been the spectrum, just because of sustainable avenues.
Yes.
Even though I've done so many things, none of them have been completely sustainable to continue.
Yeah.
So hence the podcast.
Yeah. Smart. Smart. I mean, that's where things go. I have friends in journalism and cartooning and all these things that used to be in newspapers, and there are no newspapers anymore.
Right?
So they're now doing podcasts and doing their own news shows because, they can't, the shows they were on or the papers they were in don't exist anymore.
For sure.
So I
For
think
sure.
everyone's trying to figure out the way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for you, now moving into high school,
Yeah.
completely different ball game and world.
Hmm.
What was that first year like for you as you step into that world?
So first year was really interesting because there were two junior highs so our town was that there were two junior high schools and it fed into the same high school.
Gotcha.
High school for us, God, I want to say we started in 10th grade for some reason. I feel like our junior high went to
Could
ninth,
be.
which was
Yeah.
really unusual, but
Yeah,
kind of
that
nice.
happened
We only had 3 years of high
seventh or
school.
ninth, somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I had been doing some theater classes in
Okay.
town and um, met a bunch of kids who I really liked who were
Oh,
from
cool.
the other middle school.
All
So it
right.
was kind of nice in some ways. Like I had found some of the artsy kids from this other school through this class. And so when I got to the high school, it's like I had my few friends from middle school and
Yeah.
I had the friends I knew from theater, and I
Nice.
kind of was able to get everyone together,
Cool.
which was really kind of great. So again, I'm in a very conservative school. I didn't feel like I really fit in, but I definitely found this small group of people
Yeah.
who were also kind of doing their own thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so that was really nice. Like, yes, in the bigger picture, that wasn't wasn't going to the parties and going to football games. I think I have never been to a football game in my entire life.
Okay.
Like, not my thing. So it was like, and it
Yeah.
was a very football heavy school, right? Like the football players were the gods and the cheerleaders were the goddesses. And you're just like, ugh, like I don't get this. I was very happy to see like post high school, I think it was. Trying to remember, we might have had like a 1 year reunion. No, it was right post college.
Okay.
They did like a high school reunion. I was like, I want to see people. And like the quarterback was fat and bald. And you're like, yeah, you
I,
peaked. You're
yeah.
done, you know? So that was sort of like, okay, okay, that's like,
Yeah.
you got that idea. I remember in high school, a friend of mine had an older sister, and she said, you guys don't have to worry. Like, trust me, like when you get to college, like the kids who are like not necessarily popular, she's like, you guys are so cool and you have so much going on. You are going to be like really great in college. Like
Okay.
the structure and the social scene in high school is not for you, but
Yeah.
you're going to find that. And I was like, okay, we'll see, but I think it was reassuring that like, and I always had the sense like what everyone thinks is like such a big deal in high school is really like not such a big deal,
Right. For sure.
this is not your whole life. But
Yeah.
when you're in it, it's really hard to see that. So I was lucky in that I had that. In that I had some really good friends, some of whom I'm still in touch with today and are just really like incredible women who I feel have done really unique and
Uh,
interesting things and like are still their own people.
yeah.
Um, the hardest thing for me in high school, and I think my biggest kind of trauma in my life at that time was I had a best friend from my middle school. And so it was really nice to go to high school together. And so there was this group of people from the both schools who I was friends with, and everyone sort of had their best friends because the
Yeah.
friends I knew from the other school, they all went to elementary schools in that part of the town.
Yeah.
So they all knew each other since they're young. And I only got to know them in 10th grade. So I didn't have all
Right.
that like early, memories. And I also came to the town in 5th grade. So I didn't really go to
Didn't grow up
elementary
there.
school with anyone.
Yeah.
Um, but my friend Laura was really like, that was one of those friends where you just meet and it's like instant,
Yeah.
instant. And I hung out at her house all the time and I loved her mom and I loved her brothers and like they knew me really well and were just so loving and supportive. Um, the year we were 16, so it would have been the summer right before junior year of high school.
Mm.
She was driving back from college with her mom, having dropped her brother off at college. Mom, I think, fell asleep at the wheel.
Oh, wow.
There was a car accident. She went through the windshield. She didn't die, but was in intensive care. So I had seen her. I had been at summer camp, being a counselor in training. She had been doing a writing program over the summer. She was also
Okay.
loved writing. And we saw each other like one day. She was home before going to bring her brother back to school. I was home. We compared notes really briefly. We had both kissed a boy that summer, and we were like, "Oh my
Uh,
God, you too! Oh my God!" It's like we were late bloomers.
yeah.
And so car accident on the way home. So I had seen her that one day, and then she went into intensive care. So
Mm.
we weren't allowed to visit her since she was in intensive care. And it was a couple of weeks later that I got the call that she died.
Oh, man.
So that really, I think, that more than anything colored the rest of my high school experience. And I
Yeah.
just shut
I
down.
imagine.
Yeah. So that
Wow.
was really the hardest part. So, everything was like fine enough until then, but that was like, yeah, I was kind of
Mm.
done. Um,
Right.
so, kind of just got through. But it's funny, people will talk about different events or even graduation or like some grad party or prom. I don't remember any of it. I just was like, I blocked everything out. I
Yeah.
barely, people will talk about other people at the school. I barely even remember people.
Yeah.
It was just all blocked out.
I get it. Completely get it. Did you dive into writing more at that point
That
to
was my
express?
poetry period. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a big poetry period. And senior year, I took there was a really wonderful teacher who taught creative writing.
Okay.
And so I was able to do creative writing class, and that was really wonderful.
Nice.
Um, and I was a co-editor for the yearbook because you know how you have to write all the funny things and do.
Yeah.
So I was the like, I don't even remember what we call it, but like doing the content kind of whatever
Yeah.
had to be written for the yearbook, me and someone else. That's what we were doing. And
Okay.
what I remember that was really lovely is there was a poem that, I mean, I had written many poems about Laura, but there was a poem that I thought was like just really came out beautifully.
Yeah.
And I had gotten really like great feedback from my creative writing teacher. And so we had a dedication at the front of the yearbook to her.
Nice.
And it was basically like her picture, like the photograph, like imposed over the poem. So it was
Yeah.
so I felt like I got to have it was probably one of the first things. I think I had published, there was a literary magazine at the high school as well that I would publish in sometimes. Um, but I'm sure most of the kids didn't read the literary magazine that was put out.
Right.
So this was the first time I think I really had something I wrote that was
Okay.
seen by
Yeah.
everyone.
Right.
And that was a big deal because I think I didn't realize, even though she was like the person I was closest with. She
Yeah.
obviously, so many people knew her and she touched so many people. So it felt it was like this very healing thing for me, not just to write it, but to be able to put it out there as this dedication to her. But
Right.
then also, I had so many people sort of saying that was beautiful, or I cried,
Right.
or I really miss her too, and then
Wow.
even parents, or I'd run into people in the town, walking in the town, and someone say, "Oh, I saw a parent would see me and say, I saw your poem. That was so beautiful. And, we're
Wow.
still so upset by, so I
Yeah.
just felt like it was this mutual healing that was able to happen from it.
For
And I
sure.
loved that idea of writing and having it be something that your experience could be shared in a way that's so healing for other people as well.
Absolutely. That is the beauty of creativity
Yeah.
in and of itself. Um, the healing power that it has, in my opinion, and I've been in therapy since 1994.
Love
S-
that. Good for
So,
you, smart man.
so from my perspective, the ability to inject creativity into the healing process has not been looked at uh, fine tuning
Hmm.
where the
Yeah.
fine tune comes, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much more there, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just just recently in the last few years have I seen um, just because of the internet, different organizations who are starting to put that out there that hey, this is an option.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, that experience for you is just a complete testament to the power of it.
It
Uh,
was,
not only for yourself to be able to work through some of that, but for so many different people that it
mm,
touched who may not have even had the chance to tell you
yeah.
that it touched them.
Yeah.
Those are the ripple effects
Hmm.
that creativity has that we don't always see, don't always hear of, but they do
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. It's really powerful when it does that. I think you see it sometimes with music more, right?
Yeah,
People who, I think some really popular songs is because
right.
they're speaking to something that's really universal for people.
For sure. Yeah.
Um, and books can do that, but I think there's so much, I've always encouraged journaling and I've always been a journaler. I always had
Okay.
a journal. Always did a lot of writing just
Yeah.
for myself. And I think that's really healing, but it's a different level when you then share that.
For sure.
I did a lot of writing poetry in my journals,
Yeah.
um, but it seldom gets shared. So there's something about writing it that's so healing. There's something about the arts that are so healing.
Yeah.
And then there's a different healing that happens when it's shared.
Yeah.
And it's a
Absolutely.
different experience of healing. It's a different type of healing and it's uh, communal and it's connecting and it's
Yeah.
powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. After this experience and going into your senior year, starting to think, all right, I'm kind of checked out, but what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
What's on your mind at that point of the way of thinking? Am I just going to go work? Am I going to go off to college?
Hmm.
What am I going to try to do?
Yeah. It actually, I think that experience reinforced for me wanting to be a therapist. For
Okay.
whatever reason, I always had that idea in my head from the time I was like probably about 12 or 13. I
Wow. Okay.
I think around junior high, and I think it came out of feeling so different,
Yeah.
feeling just that sense of like I'm so different, I don't fit in,
Right.
and feeling weird, like I'm kind of weird, but I'm not that weird, but I'm not
Oh,
fitting
got it.
in,
Got it.
right? I'm not weird enough that I'm doing all the really weird shit, but I'm
Yeah.
not fitting into the regular stuff. So it's this
Right.
weird limbo.
And
And
it's the weird in our own head.
yes, we're so strange in our own heads. And,
Yeah.
like, but I think I felt like, okay, if I can know what it's like to feel this weird and different, then maybe other kids have this and maybe I can help other people.
Nice. Was some of that potentially to help understand your mother in a way?
I think some of it was to understand, I think I had become in the role of
Okay.
therapist to mom,
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like,
Yep.
and become kind of like, what do I need to do to manage mom? And what kind
Right.
of psychological tricks do I need to figure out for
Yeah.
that? So I was very clued in
Okay.
to psychology, reading psychological books, not like textbooks, but books that
Yeah.
had like a psychological nature. Um, and was fascinating. And I actually also loved like the Judy Blume books, right? About
Yes.
right? And there was always some trouble kid, but it was done in such this loving way. So I think
Right.
I just felt, and I think there's also a part when you are hurting yourself and having your own mental health struggles or own sense of difference and not fitting in, that there's this sort of, well, I'm okay. I'll help someone else. Like, I'm not going to try to get help. I'm going to give help. Like it's
Okay.
almost
Yes.
it's an easier piece. Like I don't have to deal with my stuff. I'll just help someone because I understand where they're coming from, right? So that was pretty cemented in me. Like, okay, I think I would be a really good therapist because I've been my mom's therapist essentially
Yeah.
for the last, however many years. And and I really saw that as like a career option for myself because
Okay.
although I loved the arts and acting and writing, I knew those were really hard paths. And again, my insecurity was like, I'm not good enough for that.
Right.
I also think a I went to a performing arts camp, a theater camp, kind of like is in the movie, like the
Yeah.
movie about theater camp. That's where
Yeah.
I went. Um, and I remember an acting teacher, right? So we do all these acting exercises. And the acting teacher said something like, if there's anything else you can do, do it.
Oh, wow.
because to be an actor, you have to want this more than anything and have no other options to deal with all the rejection and the persistence that you're going to need to have and the motivation to keep going. And I thought, I have lots of other things I want to do. And as much as I love this, I don't want to be auditioning and rejected for the rest of my life. And as good as I was in some ways, I was more of a drama person than musical theater and had gotten some really nice dramatic roles. Um, but I was like, mm, I want to have more control over what I do. I don't just want to always play the girlfriend
Right.
or the prostitute. Those were kind of the roles, even in camp at like 14 years old. You're the
Oh, yeah.
girlfriend or you're the like we did Chicago, we're the, like the
Right.
prostitutes. And I'm like, there has to be more than that. So, but that really always stuck with me that if there's anything else you can do, do it. And so I always thought, well, if I love the acting, I'll come back to it somehow. If I love the creative, I'll come back to it. And I think I always saw therapy as a somewhat creative endeavor because it wasn't this solid science. You're just kind of talking to people as I saw it.
Yeah.
So that was really my savior was I had this goal that I knew I wanted to do and that was doable and and college was something that I wanted to get away from my town that I lived in. So college was an opportunity to get away.
Right.
So I really wanted that experience. I lived outside of New York City and I had a feeling my whole life that I would end up in New York City.
Okay.
It's where I loved, it's where I wanted to be. I just always, so I thought I want to have a different experience than New York because that's where I think I'm going to live the rest of my life.
Gotcha.
And I ran into a woman who was a senior at the time who I thought was like one of the really cool seniors. Like she was the one
Okay.
who was sort of different and wore all black and dressed really cool and had the vibe. I was like, oh, she's awesome. And I ran into her and she was going to the school I had never heard of at the time, McGill, which is a school in Canada, in Montreal, that has now become quite popular with Americans because it was cheaper
Right.
than
Yeah.
American schools.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know that. And when I started looking into it, they had a really good psychology program. So I was like,
Okay.
oh. And my dad was really happy because it was like a third of the price of all the American schools.
Right.
So he's like, I don't want to influence you, but,
Exactly.
so it was affordable. So that was really lovely. So I think that really was like a saving grace for me was not only leaving my town, but leaving the country and
Yeah.
like having this and being in this remarkable city. Montreal is just gorgeous. So to be able to live there and go to
Right.
school there, it was really a special place.
Did you find that in new environment, did you find that somewhat healing as well from the childhood stuff?
I did in that like I think, I mean, look, this is the funny piece. I was still incredibly shy. Like that shyness never left.
Yeah.
But I think I felt more, I remember going up to visit McGill and I felt more at home. Like I found a place I fit,
Yeah.
like it was not your typical college like American colleges are. I remember getting there to visit, like I knew someone who was there and said, "Oh, come stay with me." And I was like, "Great." So I
Okay.
got to visit it and we went to clubs and we did like city things and
Yeah.
it was fascinating. No one there wore sweats. Like American colleges still, I think, but
Yeah.
definitely at the time, you wear the college sweatshirt, you wear the and Montreal was like very French at the time and very fashionable. And you would
Okay.
never have your hair in a ponytail and be wearing sweats.
Nice.
People dressed
Yeah.
great. It's a city, like most of the people were from Montreal or Toronto, most of the students there. So it's just like, and I had at that time been pretty much just dressing like thrift shop dressing, just doing the like vintage stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, 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 I belong here. This is very cool. I belong here. This is great. And so that was amazing. And I did do like a minor in theater. So, and I
Okay.
got involved in theater and some theater there and met a lot of people through that. And so it was an opportunity to just explore more of the
Right.
creative. Like I could do this. It was really lovely. I could do the psychology and do the creative and also have this city life that I kind of always dreamed would be more the place I fit.
Okay.
So I kind of
I,
got some, you know,
yeah. Got some flavor.
affirmation, confirmation for that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. As you're moving through this new course of learning, are you starting to explore as well possibilities of work, possibilities of new relationships, those
Yeah.
types of things?
Yeah. So definitely, I mean, definitely exploring. I don't know when I realized that, like, in order to be a psychologist, you have to go to grad school. Like, I
Okay.
think I really still, there was this part of me that's just like, you just talk to people. Like,
Right.
that's it. I'm learning behavioral stuff. I'm learning,
Yeah.
all this old stuff that you have to know about and Freud and,
Right.
Skinner and, behaviorism. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. But it was all very academic. Um, but I think at some point in talking with a teacher, it was like, yeah, no, if you really want to be a therapist, you have to go to grad school. I was like, oh, okay. That's kind of what I want to do. So that was like, that realization didn't come to me till later, till like somewhere in the middle of college. So I knew that that was really the path I wanted.
Okay.
Um, and, and I kind of got to explore the creative stuff and, you know, figure out, have some, so, be dating and meeting some people. I think it was the first time I'd had a boyfriend senior year of high school.
Okay.
This was the first time I was sort of like adult, and meeting people. And I was still very shy and very uncomfortable
Okay.
with, I loved kind of some of the basics, but I had lost my virginity in freshman year to the guy I was dating. And it was all very uncomfortable for me. I was like, this does not feel good. This doesn't
Right.
feel. So I think I was kind of also figuring trying to figure that out. Like I
Oh yeah.
like parts of this, but I don't like all of it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? And
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think as a lot of young women, it's sort of like,
Guys too.
yeah,
Guys too.
doesn't all, you're like, there's certain things you like and certain things you don't. And no one's really talking about it. And sadly, I didn't really,
That's one
that's
of
the
the key
piece.
things. Yes.
No one, at least my friends weren't really,
No, none of
or I wasn't comfortable enough to ask questions or bring it up. Um, and I had some like unusual experiences where, I still had my high school boyfriend and it was really more of a safety blanket,
yeah.
and there was a guy who liked me, but I wasn't sure. He had a crush on me and we were all just friends. We were all part of a friend group. And eventually one of my close girlfriends started dating him and I had never had that experience.
Wow.
And that was really like kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I didn't go, we would just like fool
Yeah.
around or I mean, I also came to the place of being an adult and a lot of us had apartments. just
Okay.
sleeping over. And I realized, like, oh, I like sleeping over. I don't need to have sex, but I like sleeping over. So I don't know how the guys felt about it, but I was like, I'm just going to sleep over. It was probably the worst thing, but I was like, this is fun, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and it was like this betrayal that I don't think I ever really spoke about fully with her at the time. So here's all this confusing stuff going on, and no one's speaking open. I'm sleeping with guys, and they're not saying anything that I don't want to have sex, or we're fooling around to a
Yeah.
point, but I'm not dating. And then
Yeah.
someone, and they start dating someone else. It was all very confusing and not talked about. And I had so
Right.
many questions and so much I didn't understand. Um, and I wished that there was just more information of just like
Yeah.
real stuff,
Right.
not like the bullshit stuff, the real stuff.
Yep.
So that always stuck with me, how much it's not talked about.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Definitely. I mean, even like I said, from the guy's perspective,
yeah.
going to that private school, the only sex education that I got was one course of those 12 little booklets.
Oh, God, those
And
booklets.
exactly. And because, you know, my mom's a teacher there, she's like, make sure you pay attention as you're going through those. That was
That was it.
all I
That
ever
was
did.
it.
Everything else was trial and error. And that's never a kind road for the heart,
Yeah,
trial and error.
it's not. And people aren't talking. And I had a mom who took me for birth control because she knew I had a boyfriend, but
Okay.
we never talked about anything.
Yeah.
Oh, here, you know, I want you to be safe or whatever. But there were never any conversations about sex. So it's
Right.
like, oh, I'm expected to have sex, but I don't know what that means, you know, and I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
comfortable. Um, there's no, it's really, I think eh, I talk about it. I've talked about it a lot, and I think it's the reason I put the book out that I did, because it is about that journey that I finally had, like
Yeah.
in my late 40s, you know,
Mm.
of like, okay, now I'm going to figure this out, because I never really was clear
Yeah.
what my body liked and didn't, and how it all works for me. Um, and I've always said, you know, one of the biggest failings of our education system in America is there is no mandated sex education. And if
Right.
it is mandated, there's no mandates or rules or guidelines on what should be shared, and
Yeah.
it's usually just pregnancy prevention and STDs,
Yeah.
which most kids know that. But even, okay, great. But okay, so you know how to prevent the pregnancy, but what about all the things you're doing
Yeah.
that are why you're preventing the pregnancy? No one's
Yeah.
talking about it. And then sadly, we're in a generation with the internet where everyone's getting their information from TV shows and porn,
Right.
and they're seeing stuff that is just not real.
Not every day.
It's
Yes.
not everyday stuff.
Yeah.
And even I had read something, and oh, I thought this was brilliant. And I forget which porn star it was, but an adult film star, female,
Yeah.
had started going to colleges to give sex talks to, I think it was mainly the boys,
Okay.
although it might have been co-ed, but the article I read, it was definitely a group. It was a single sex group of young men at the college,
Yeah.
and basically, you know, was like, ask me anything. And then also, one of the things she was very clear on, being an adult film worker, was what you see on the internet is not what you are should be doing.
Yeah.
That is not sex, it's entertainment.
Right.
We are doing things, and we know what we're doing, and we're filming it in a certain way, and we're experts.
Right.
And I'm not necessarily orgasming, I'm faking it, and all of those things. that, and like how incredible to have someone from that world that kids are seeing saying, here's the truth about sex. And
No, exactly. And from that perspective, like personally, I appreciate that so much. And I say that from the perspective of now being older, understanding it as well. I understand it's scripted. So it's a written
yeah.
creative piece for sexual activity. It's
Yes.
not the daily experience
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
everybody's,
Yeah.
experiencing. And disappointingly, there's this whole side of society that looks at that and says, oh my gosh, no way. We don't want anything to do with it. We don't want no part of it. But yet, that side is also the side that won't even talk. So it's like, all right,
Yeah.
what do you,
Yeah. We're,
what do you want? You want to talk or do you not want to talk? You want to
mm-hmm.
inform or not want to inform? Um, but also too, from that perspective, some of the ones that I've heard that have done similar things, they've talked about the fact that their own personal relationships are completely different
Yes.
than
Than
that.
what you're seeing in,
Right.
right. They're not going home and doing that with
No.
their partner at
Right.
all. Yeah.
And so those are the things where it's like, okay, I see a little bit of progress and there's hope. And then when we see something else and it's like, oh, there's no hope. When is this going to shift? When is this going to change?
That's it.
But at least it's something at this
It's
point.
something. It's a start. When I wrote the book, because um, I'm skipping ahead, but I ended up, so in college, I ended up dating a guy I met in a play.
Okay.
And we were really kind of more best friends than anything, but it was a relationship, and a romantic relationship. And we ended up getting married. He was Canadian.
Okay.
So it was like, I was never one who was like dream wedding. My dream wedding was jeans and my Converse sneakers. Like, I just was
Nice.
not a like, oh, I need the white dress, I need
Dress
the
and
ring.
flower, all
No,
that.
God, I
Okay.
really didn't want any of that. Like, that's when I say it was different. I just, like, none of that stuff made sense to me.
Okay.
So when, at some point, I think our senior year of college, he was like, so, and we had wanted to live together. He wanted to do theater in New York as well. And he said, so if I'm going to live in New York, would you marry me so I could get my green card? And I was like, sure.
Okay.
Great. Why not? Awesome. Like, this is so fun. And we had originally thought, let's not tell anyone. Let's just do this. Let's see how it goes. And at some point, years from now, we'll surprise people at some like dinner and be like, oh, hey, by the way, we're married. We've been married for 2 years, right? We just wanted to do this thing.
Right.
And a friend of mine was like, you have to tell your parents. You can't do that. And once I told my parents, it was like, oh, we have to have a wedding. We have to. So
Right.
we did like the backyard wedding. I was like,
Yeah.
and I kept shutting down the list. I was like, do not want anyone there, but like close friend and family who I know. Um, and so my parents were pretty upset about it, but it was like that, or we elope. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
this is our demands. And if you don't like it, we don't need to do this. We'll
Right.
just go off to the justice of the peace. We're good with that. We'll go to Vegas. That was our dream. Let's go to Vegas, get married by Elvis, like, just have it be really crazy.
Right.
So that was how I ended up married. It wasn't this like big, passionate, it was just really a amazing friendship and an amazing intellectual
Okay.
connection and closeness and a lot of affection.
Yeah.
Um, but what ended up happening is it ended up being that, like, sex was just not front and center. And in terms of education, I had been on birth control pills forever, and no one told me that it affects your body in certain ways that affect sex, that it's harder to get naturally lubricated, that your cycle can really affect your libido and all of
Right.
those things. No one said anything. It was back in the 80s. No one was certainly talking about lube to a
Right.
22-year-old. It was like, if you can't do that, you must be rigid, frigid, you must not
Yeah.
be doing it right.
Yeah.
So those things, which are now like, you know, more common as you get older, and especially as you're perimenopausal as a
Yeah.
woman. But back then, it's like that's a normal thing because depending where you are in your cycle, you might need that. But no
Right.
one's teaching girls that. So when it came time to write the book, part of the decision of like putting out into the world something so personal and sexual was really part of that was part of the decision making for me was no one's talking about sexless marriage except as a punchline of a joke,
Okay.
are you
Yeah.
having sex? No, of course not. I'm married, like no one's
Yeah.
talking about just the changes that happen or the difficulties that come up or the shame of
Right.
not being sexual or any of the things. And I thought, okay, I'm complaining that no one's talking about this. So if I want to do something about it, then I need to put it out there
Yeah.
because someone has to have something out there for the highest stat I've seen is like as much as 40% of couples are sexless.
Right.
So 10 times a year or less. Most of the people I talk to who are sexless are like, haven't had sex in like 3 to 10 years.
Right. Yeah. The numbers are always wild when you hear them
Wild. Yeah.
because it's like, what
Yeah.
are we are we that far removed from
Yeah.
the realities of what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the things that I gave as part of the description of you being the author of that book was this season of upheaval
Hmm.
that kind of spawned that.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable going into a little bit of that? 'Cause I'm
Totally.
assuming
Totally.
a lot of what you're doing outside of your marriage is actually into the practice, working in the psychological realms of the hospitals, the
Yeah.
health settings, different things like that. And so
Yeah.
I imagine there's a little bit of a removal potentially of what's actually happening in the marriage
Hmm.
component.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, it's interesting. So, when there is a sexless marriage, it goes on for so long and there's so much kind of doubt and insecurity and what's wrong and like little attempts at talking about it
Yeah.
um and all of those sort of went awry for me. And I think what I kept hearing from my husband at the time was, we've been married such a long time. No one we know who's married this long is having sex, let alone even a great relationship. Like it's sort of like no one is in a good place. So this is just the norm. Why are
Oh,
we
wow.
trying? Why would you expect something more? You know, the underlying piece that I do talk about in the book, but not in great detail. And I try to not go into my ex's story. His name is Robert.
Okay.
And what I don't go into is when I first met him, introduced himself as what today I guess we would call bisexual, although he had never
Okay.
been with a man.
Gotcha.
But he basically had shared with me something about, oh, I just love people regardless of gender. And at the
Gotcha.
time, he was dating a woman and he had only dated women. And I thought of it more as like I was really fascinated with androgyny, like
Okay.
because of the artists of the time, Annie
Yeah.
Lennox,
Yep.
David
Yep.
Bowie, Boy George, right? All these incredible artists who
Right.
were sort of just starting to play with this idea of androgyny. And I thought, my dissertation in grad school ended up being on creativity and androgyny and paradox.
Okay.
Um, because I thought it was like really like, what is it about androgyny and create these creatives, right?
Yes.
And that what is it about the rigidity of our gender roles that people are trying to figure, that somehow is being creative, taking the best of each gender role. And so it was a whole exploration. So I was fascinated. So him telling me that didn't was kind of like, cool, that's fascinating. Okay. And then I
Yeah.
put it aside. When we finished college and moved to New York City, it reared its head again in that he was in New York City working in restaurants while
Yeah.
going to acting classes and being hit on by a lot of men and was bringing some stuff up for him. And I kind of said, you should go figure this out. Like we
Okay.
were only married a year or so. And I was like, figure it out. Like you should know, and I should know. And he kind of went to gay bars and fooled around with some friend and his boyfriend. And none of it at the time sort of was the big aha moment he was
Got
looking for.
Yeah.
He didn't feel any more comfortable with them than he did, anywhere else. We had friends who
Right.
were gay and straight. Like it wasn't what he was like, it doesn't do anything for me. So we're like,
Okay.
okay, so let's keep going what we're doing. Um, Fast forward, sex was again never comfortable for me. I didn't really understand why. I didn't know how to talk about it. I sometimes would just say, like, that really hurts or whatever it is. And he took that very sensitively, like, oh, well, I don't want to hurt you. So we
Okay.
both sort of shut down from it, which is what happens, I think, in a lot of marriages is something's not working and you just stop talking about it, or you
Right.
just make things nice to appease the other person and make life easier and like
Yeah.
just start chipping away at parts of yourself, right?
Yeah.
And those parts of yourself eventually, why I think is why people wake up at some point, is we didn't don't even recognize themselves anymore. So they're
Yeah.
so disconnected from themselves and what gives them joy. How can they connect to another person if they're not even connected to themselves? And so I think that disconnection, and there was so many parts of that I was disconnected from.
Mhm.
Um, I was in grad school, I finished grad school, I was working, really kind of like the basic level jobs, and it was hard. And I loved things about it, but it was also like, why am I helping everyone else? And I'm not doing the things for myself. And I wasn't doing kind of as much of the creative stuff.
Mm.
Um, so like there was just so much that was disconnected, and at some point I remember different attempts at, you know, should we have more sex? And he was like, everything seems fine. Or and I remember once there's a chapter I write about buying like bustier, like a,
Okay.
like lingerie,
Yeah.
and was going to surprise him for an anniversary because that's what they said in magazines to do, right?
Exactly.
Like, oh yeah, you're uncomfortable with it, just put on a, lingerie.
Yeah.
And I think if you're already comfortable with someone, that's great. Maybe if they love that or it makes you feel
Right.
differently, but for me, I was so uncomfortable. Before I even got to that point, I had it on the bed before I put it away. And he came home earlier than I expected and saw it and just was like, what's that? Why would you
Yeah.
even get something like that? And I was like, oh, wow. Like, that was not the reaction I was going for. This is kind of hopeless. And
Right.
like put it away in my underwear drawer. Like, I don't know if I can ever have this. I don't
Yeah.
even know what I'm asking for. So that whole piece was just painful and challenging. But it wasn't until a few years later, we didn't have our son until like 18 years into our marriage because we really
Oh,
liked
wow. Okay.
we got married so young and we really
Yeah.
liked our single life or
Right.
our child-free life. We loved to travel and we loved being in the city, and we're both ambivalent about it. So when we did, I was like, oh, you know what? Let's try this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I literally got pregnant the first time, checked my temperature, did all the things. And it
Yeah.
was like, bingo, had a miscarriage. And then was
Oh,
like, okay, let's wait a little. Like, but at that point, after the miscarriage, it was like, oh, yeah, this would be nice. Like, that was a sad
okay.
thing. I would like this. Did
Gotcha.
it again, checked the temperature, did everything. Bam, one time I was
Okay.
pregnant. So like I had a sense I was pretty fertile.
Mm,
Um, but during my pregnancy, my doctor, and this is the other thing, I don't know why even doctors aren't talking about sex, right? So
yes.
during my examination, my doctor tells me, oh, you have a tilted uterus. Uteruses usually go forward. The cervix on mine goes back. It shortens the distance of the vaginal canal because it's tilting back rather than opening it. And she
Right.
said, oh, you have a tilted uterus. Don't worry about it. It won't affect the pregnancy. And that's all she said.
Mm,
And I went home and I started reading about this thing that I had never heard of. No
right.
doctor had ever pointed it out. And I was like, oh my God, the first thing it said is it can create painful sex. Like intercourse can be painful. And it was like, all this time, all this
Yes.
time, and no one told me. And like, I would have had more information to figure this out
Yes.
that it, like, I would have not, like, there's positions you can do that are different, that are more shallow. Lube would have helped because everything's different when the cervix is tilted backward. It
Yeah.
changes it's a game. It's not what we
Yes.
think.
No, exactly.
No one told me until I was like 39 years old and pregnant.
Right.
So that was fascinating. And so not only are we not talking about sex, we're just not talking about like basic anatomical, if there is any pain, telling girls if there's any pain, that's not normal,
Right.
right? I've had so many young women who are like, well, I just assumed sex is supposed to be painful. It's for the men, it's not for girl, and like modern, like
Yeah.
intelligent, young women. And I'm like, that's what you thought, but I didn't have any information. So that was like, oh, that's fascinating. Didn't really do anything with it, but file it away. And probably, once you have a kid, your whole life is kind of your kid. So
Right.
many people are sexless after the kid. So by that point, it was like, oh, I'm not even going to bother. Um,
Okay.
that seemed like the norm for most people I knew.
Gotcha.
But I think my son was probably about 7 years old. And that's when Robert had come home one day and we went to dinner and he was really anxious and basically revealed to me that he'd been away. He was working out of town
Okay.
long term, off and on, and
Okay.
he had felt really lonely. He met up with some men to kind of try to relieve the loneliness, and he had fallen in love with one of them.
Mm,
And I was like, okay. So that was a whole other. So that was really the beginning of the end of first wrapping my head around this whole life I thought I had planned
right.
was was not what it was going to be. And I could not be with him because I didn't want to be what was now clear. Okay, he does want to be with men, and maybe that's why. Um, but also, I wanted I wanted a chance to have this experience that I never had of a relationship that also was sexual and
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
which I was desired, right? I think that's
Yeah.
what women, I've read articles that all women really want is to be desired. All people want to
All
feel
people.
desired.
Yes. Yes.
All
100% with
people want to know that they are desirable to someone and loved and adored for who they are.
you. Yeah.
And that's not just a female thing, because
Right.
I met many men whose wives, similar to my story, who divorced, wives had fallen in love with women, wives had come out as lesbian, and they just wanted to feel desired because they didn't after all
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So it's all people. I definitely learned that. There is not a huge difference between men and women as much as we like to think there is.
Hmm.
There's really not. But after kind of that was really just so much shifts and changes, and what do we do now, and how do we move on with our lives, and we're in New York City living in an apartment together. We can't afford two apartments.
Yeah.
Like, it's expensive enough with one. So we spent like a couple of, probably about 3 or 4 years living together. I didn't start dating for a couple. I had to kind of lick my wounds and go through my depression and my emotional upheaval around what just happened and why aren't I loved and why did I stick around so long, and just all the things that came up, and all my fear about an unknown future, having planned everything so nicely.
Right.
Um, so it was a good year and a half, 2 years before I actually was like, let me figure out this dating thing. But I was also terrified because I knew dating meant sex, and
Mm,
sex had never been comfortable for me.
right. Right.
So I was like, I'm going to have to figure this out. So that's really a big part of the journey I talk about, is also just figuring myself out,
Yeah.
figuring out what I like, and then dating in a way where I wasn't looking for a husband or a boyfriend. I was just looking to kind of do this experiment
Yeah.
of, what do I want? What feels good? What do I
Right.
like? Do I
Yeah.
want to be monogamous? Do I
Yeah.
want to get married again? I don't know if I do. Right. So it
Yeah.
was this whole kind of slow process in which I really kind of kept stepping back. I was in it without my psychologist hat, and then I'd step back and kind of do the analysis and be like, oh, okay, what's going on here? And what am I, why am I so desperate? Or what am I so afraid of? Or that was
Right.
nice, but I don't ever want to see that person again. So I don't need to. Or, wow, that was a really shitty kiss. So I don't have to see them again.
Yeah.
And I don't have to say yes just because I've been raised to say yes to people and to not hurt their feelings. And I could be a little selfish, and I
Yeah.
could be a little like, what do I want for me? And so it was like this amazing experiment of, dating multiple people and trying new things. And it was a blast. And
What's fascinating for me um, is what took place sounds very, very similar to what you experienced in college
yeah,
with that boy and that
yeah,
betrayal with
yeah,
the friend as well.
yeah, yeah,
Um, Another element that I find fascinating in the kind of beginning of the story, moving now from Canada back to New York,
yeah.
is the whole theater scene, the whole fashion industry. I
Hmm.
know personally from the fashion industry that androgynous look was very, very popular going through the 80s and
Yep.
90s.
That was when I was in my 20s, right? So that was
Yeah.
really influential. Yeah.
And myself was very intrigued by it, curious about it. What
Yeah.
is that? What is the look of that? And again, not having that information through middle school, high school, into college,
Yeah.
I'm having to experience everything firsthand. My first experience with someone who was gay as a man was
Hmm.
at work. I had
Interesting.
I had a coworker that was that way, and he would hit on me. And it was like, well, what's happening here? I don't understand this. And then the realizations kick in, and it's like, oh, this is the thing that was said. This is the wrong
This
thing.
is the right in all your booklets. I'm
Yes,
sure they talked about it.
yes. No,
No, they didn't even say it's bad. Not even to say it's bad. It was
no.
just
We got the bad component
okay.
from the sermons.
Got it. Okay.
In the booklet, it wasn't even discussed that there is more than one option scenario. It's just
Wow.
this is the straight way, and that's it.
That's it. That's the only perspective. Yeah.
Yes, that's the only perspective. So from that, it's like, okay, I'm having to take this information and process it as fast as possible, even in the uncomfortability of it, because even though I was intrigued by the androgyny, I'm in love with fashion.
Yeah.
I'm as straight as a broomstick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't have any inclination of going in that direction. I appreciate it. I can see it. I understand it. Two of my favorite podcast people that I've experienced through this process is a podcast called For the Love of Creatives. And it's
Off the
by a couple, Maddox and Dwight. Uh,
okay.
they're, they're in Dallas. Um, they were the first interview that I did. I went
Oh
on their
wow.
podcast,
Okay.
and honestly, I could say I love those guys
Yeah.
because of where they come from, their experience. I know what their heart is, and I can sense that and feel
Yeah.
that as an older male at this
Hmm.
point in time.
Yeah.
And I see that there's a love there between them. And it's like, how can you deny that?
Hmm. That's
Because
exactly it.
ultimately that's the thing, is the love.
Hmm.
If the love is there, then who cares about any of the other stuff?
It.
Um, but it's again, it's what I see a lot of these experiences boil down to is a process of communication, whether it's information that's given or not given early.
Hmm.
And then when you're in it, it's the conversations that you don't have that ultimately end up being the realizations of, oh,
Hmm.
that's why I didn't know.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't have the information,
Yeah.
didn't get communicated with by a doctor, by a professional
Hmm.
mental health space, by my partner, by a love interest of any sort, all of the things, right?
Yeah.
We just don't have the communication and the information. And one of the things that I always try to put out to the audience of creatives, especially if they're dealing with the mental health side of stuff,
Hmm.
is you have to be your own advocate.
Oh yes.
You have
100%.
to stay curious and continue to function from that perspective to try and understand what you might be dealing with, what you might be going through, what you may not perceive and why you're not perceiving it.
Yeah.
Those types of things. Because for myself, my own mental health journey, I've been to I don't know how many different therapists, psychiatrists, MDs across the board.
Hmm.
But I got used to being able to say, no, that's not for me,
Yep.
and moving on,
So important. Oh my God, that's so important.
and still being curious of, I want to know the answers.
Yes.
I have not gotten them from these other people, but I still want to know. So I'm
Hmm.
moving in a new direction to find somebody new that I might be able to connect with that can help bring to light some of the things that I'm struggling with, that I
So
don't have
important.
answers for.
It's so important. You
Yeah.
know, I have a lot of people who will ask me for help finding a therapist. And even when I have new clients coming in, and when I went to look for therapists myself, you really like, I think we're raised with this idea of a doctor being kind of
Right.
having all the answers. And
Yep.
I really like to take that model away from people to say, this is a person you're going to collaborate with.
Yes.
And if you don't feel, and like with my clients, I always tell them, you know, I do an initial just to sort of see, is this a fit? Like, can I help them? Do they
Yeah.
feel comfortable? And sometimes it's not, what they're looking for or my vibe or what they need isn't what I have a specialty in, or I don't feel like it's a great fit. But I always say, you have to feel safe with a therapist, and you have to feel like if that you can say anything, including if there's
Yeah.
something that is said or perceived, if you feel like they said something you didn't like, or there's something you want to be talking about and they're not helping you go there, then you
Yeah.
need to speak up and tell them. And if you can't do that, then it's not the right therapist.
Right.
Similarly, when I found a new therapist when Robert, came out and was dating, and she was lovely and warm. And really what I needed was a holding space. I'd
Yeah.
go in and I would say a few things and then I would just cry for like 45 minutes. And that's really all I needed. But
Yeah.
at some point, we were really having to figure out, because we were still living together, and we were really having to figure out, how do we live together and date other people?
Yeah.
We're still co-parents. We were not always at that point sleeping in the same bed. One of us would sleep on the couch.
Yeah.
Um, my son was young enough. Sometimes he would still come into the bed. And if he did, one of us would go into his bed. I mean, it was like musical beds for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was not the most comfortable, but we also it was just circumstances and we were doing the best we could. And I remember my therapist said something, and we were thinking, I guess this is sort of like an open marriage because
Okay.
it's not a traditional marriage, even
Yeah.
though we were not sure we weren't sure we were going to stay together, but we had no way to kind of fully separate yet in terms of real estate.
Okay.
So I remember my therapist said something like, it seems like you don't really want to be in an open marriage. And I was like, this is kind of what I have. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is just the deal I have right now. So it's not a matter of, you know, yeah, maybe I don't, this is hard.
Yeah.
And I don't want this forever, but it's what I have now. And she was like, well, I don't really understand. I've never worked with anyone with open marriages. And I was like, okay, so this isn't helpful. And literally, it was sort of like such a disconnect that I went online that night when I got home and I looked up like therapists, open marriages, and a bunch of names came up. And there was like the woman I called specialized in, and oh, the sun is coming in,
Yeah.
specialized in open marriages and like alternative lifestyles
Okay.
and, all sorts of kink. Like she kind of just specialized in
Okay.
all this
Yeah.
different stuff. And I thought, okay, let me just try this. And my very first session, she knew exactly what was going on. She's like, this isn't really, if it were an open marriage, this is what would have needed to happen. And
Yeah.
this is what didn't happen. He would have had to pay extra attention to you as his partner before opening things up, but this was opened up before that. So no wonder you're feeling really put out, because there was no extra attention paid to you. And
Right.
so this isn't really an open marriage. It's just everything just was accidental, and
Yeah.
it's not going to work. It's not working for you. And she really, it was like, because she understood what it was like this relief, like, oh. I'm not
Yeah.
just feeling like upset and jealous and out of sorts and unappreciated and unloved. It's like, of course, like here's this person who's like, no, no, I still want to be married, but like, hey, have this boyfriend and this should be fine and we can all be friends. And I'm like, this is
Yeah.
like the, and she had answers that were more than just, I don't think you like this. It was
Right.
like real answers. And so it was a real learning experience for me as a therapist to be like, you know what? I can hurt this woman's feelings who was the first therapist because it's not my job to take care of her.
Right.
Like
Right.
it's not your job as the client, as the patient to take care of your therapist.
Yeah.
If they say something wrong or do something you don't like, tell them. In this case, I didn't go to have reparation because she knew nothing about a topic that I realized I'm wading into waters that I know nothing about. I need an expert.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's not it. She's lovely, but she's not it.
Right.
So like definitely advocate for yourself and like that's the biggest takeaway. And do not think it is your job to make your therapist feel okay or feel like they're doing a good job. If it's not working, it's not working. It's not
Right.
personal. Take care of yourself and find who you need. You
Yeah.
know, we're not taught that. We're not taught how to find a therapist.
We're not taught many things. And
We're
I
really not. Yeah.
that we've seen that throughout this whole conversation
Yeah.
where it's been more experimental life than it has been informed.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of that plays out from the beginning of being shy, having an environment that's confusing to
Mm-hmm.
begin with, because your mom was, she was good sometimes, and other times she's painting your brother.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
what's happening here?
Yeah.
Right. So early on, the confusion has been instilled.
Yeah.
Just not enough information to
Yeah.
formulate a realistic view of how to move forward. But the other side of it too is the creative process has allowed you at particular points in time to experience different things from your internal perspective, which is where creativity comes from anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even, the relationship of uh, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend,
Mm,
girlfriend, marriage, all of that, sex is a part of it.
mm-hmm.
It's a part of creativity.
Part of life, right? It's a part of full
Life is
living.
literally created from that
Yes, it
experience.
is all entwined. It's incredible.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it can also be a way for you to experience new forms of creativity because of what it opens up for people
Hmm.
if they're informed as well. Kundalini yoga
Yeah.
is a very profound way of marrying the two.
Hmm.
And
Tantra is
yes,
fascinating. Yeah.
exactly. And those elements of process, opening up channels of creativity and consciousness, even that are not experienced on a daily level. And again, I think being curious, being your own advocates, searching for things that are going to help you make your life better.
Hmm.
And if there's any form of that that is creative, step into it because you
Yes.
never know what it can open up for you.
Yes. So well said, Rich. That's
Thank you.
beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you.
it's beautiful. And I think for me, the ultimate was that this whole process ended with once again me having this opportunity to do the writing, which was healing.
Yeah.
I wrote this in bits and pieces over probably about well, 7 years total because the
Oh, wow.
editing's so long. Yeah. But
Wow.
also, I wrote it all during this process of like while I was dating and figuring things out. And I think it really was this helpful healing tool of like getting things down on paper and making sense of what was happening in my life and the changes. Um, and then being able to go back because I didn't write it all while it was happening. Some of the harder parts I came back to later. And so to be at the end of, there is no end to creativity, to be coming through this process and this renewal and rebirth with
Yeah.
writing at the center of it for myself was, and for it to manifest and be able to become this book that also has that healing component for me and for other people. Because that's
Right.
the best thing to hear is people who will reach out and say, you know, my wife and I read this and it's been so helpful, or I read this and that was my life, you know.
Yeah.
It's an incredible gift that, you know, I was able to do this and then share it. So I love
Yeah.
how you summed everything up. And it
Thank
really
you.
is. Um, I talk a lot in the book about permission, giving ourselves permission
Yes.
and permission for pleasure because we shut that part off so much. And
Oh, yeah.
to me, the pleasure and the creativity, whether it's sexual pleasure, creative pleasure, or just the pleasure of walking through the grass barefoot,
Yes.
whatever it is, we deny ourselves those pleasures so often. And I think that's where I came to ultimately was just that I can be open and honest and allow myself to feel pleasure in my life.
Yeah.
And so much of when things aren't working in our lives, like look at what you've cut off. Because I think
Right.
oftentimes there's something that's been cut off that you're disconnected from. That's
Yeah.
just some really important piece deep
Yeah.
inside. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. I think that's a perfect place for us to be able to close out today. On that note of
great.
giving yourself permission to experience, giving yourself permission to create. Um, you are good enough.
Hmm.
Even that little kid
Yeah.
who did not know that they were good enough to do something. Um, you've now created two scenarios throughout your storyline. One, when your friend passed in
Hmm.
high school, where you created a piece that touched multiple lives outside of your own
Yeah.
healing process. Now, another example of you creating a piece that is helping others as well. Um, and in that message of giving yourself permission, give yourself permission to experience, explore, be creative for the creative community that we're talking to,
Yeah.
because all of these things come together for our own life purpose.
Hmm.
And that's the experience of it.
It really is.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
One of the things that I always remind the audience at the very end is
Hmm.
always listen to your heart, but in the same breath, be kind to your mind.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. It's
Thank you.
beautiful way